that dance holds up, and you can tell she put in the work
She went
for.
fucking hard for think of the scenario, right? Like like she's dancing for this like stranger guy who just likes to watch, who she thinks he's a hooker or whatever. She fucking goes hard on that bedpost.
I meant like she had worked out.
I finally
Watched.
I finally
Watched.
I
finally
watched. I
finally
watched.
I finally
Watched.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of I Finally Watched. This is David.
And this is Alon, and I finally watched True Lies.
So, Alon, you, before the last couple weeks, had not watched two of the biggest blockbusters of 1994, Speed and now True Lies. And True Lies, at the time it was made, had the biggest budget of any movie at $100 million,
I
which is
believe
now
it. I
now
believe
like
it.
laughable that would be a big budget. Um, I like this is one of those movies that I think a lot of people when you mention it are like, oh yeah, I really like True Lies. That's a good movie, and they like have some memories about it. Like Aziz to me has stuck with me like in the 30 years since I've seen this. Like always just sticks with me as the bad guy from this. I think he's like super memorable
Yeah.
and very good. Um, I never remembered that they're in Omega Sector though, and but I think it's as I was saying, it's a movie that like a lot of people, if you brought it up to them, like, oh yeah, I like that. Oh, that's a good action movie. That's like one of those ones they don't make anymore. But I doubt many people are like True Lies is my favorite movie. In my top
Well,
10 is my even my favorite James Cameron movie. And I mean, I think it has gotten a little lost to time a little bit. A lot of that has to do with like it's never even been updated to like Blu-ray.
right, and I think I wanted to watch this a couple nights ago. It was like the July 31st when I when I wanted to watch this, and you're like, "Yeah, you're not going to find it." And I was like, "I'll just buy it. It's fine. I won't find it on a streaming service. I'll just buy it off of like Amazon Prime or YouTube." And I couldn't, it was just not like anywhere. And I was like, "Do I have to fucking run to like my local Barnes and Noble and fucking buy the hard copy of this?" Um, but it wasn't anywhere. It wasn't on Tubi, it wasn't on Prime to buy or stream or Hulu, Netflix, yada yada yada. And then of course, like all things in this world, uh August 1st rolled around, and lo and behold, every fucking stream decided to, yeah, we'll have True Lies now. Not when Alon wanted to watch it when he had time to watch it, but we'll put it on our streaming services now. And you and I talked about this too, but you watched it on Tubi and I watched it on Prime. And the funny thing about that is that we both had like a version of the movie that was made for TV, like a cable version of the film. It like dipped in black preparing it for a commercial, but then there was no commercial.
And then the Tubi commercials happened at like different points. So yeah, it would stop for like an obvious commercial break. I didn't it's interesting though, like I didn't notice at any point like things edited in any way, right? But I think this is a PG-13, so it's like it might be R actually. I can't even remember. I didn't notice any like
It's
uh,
R. It's R because I remember seeing it and I was like, "Oh, okay."
that's what I thought, but I didn't notice any like obvious edits. So like that's what makes it so weird, the fading to black, because it's like what network was this fading to black for? Like Um, and I was talking earlier about how this has never been updated. So like if you went on like eBay right now, you could buy the DVD for like $5 and you could buy the Blu-ray from like another country, but apparently it's just like the DVD version uh on a Blu-ray disc. And so because this has never been updated because James Cameron won't allow it to be done without him, and he's too busy in Pandora right now to spend any time to do this.
I would like to see like a day in the life of James Cameron like right now and be like, is he just like fucking like in a soundstage on like Avatar 23 He has like a fucking investigation board with like all the strings and shit attached, and he just does that every day. He's like, well, then if they do this and they go there, there has to be a water place, there has to be a fireplace, and those fire people have to look like this, and blah blah.
I think you're giving him a lot of credit when you've also made fun of him for having like very non-complex movies, as like other people have too. So I don't know what the board's needed for. It's just like, they go the water people, and oh hey, that guy from the first movie attacks again. Going into seeing this movie this time, I was like, yeah, I like True Lies. Kind of like what I was just saying. Like, I like True Lies, but I haven't thought about it in forever. I had a ton of fun in this movie. And specifically, you called me when I had like an hour left, and you were like, I didn't really like it that much. I have a lot of problems with it. And I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay so far. And then the last hour hit, and I'm like laughing continuously, like really enjoying the action. And I just think like the movie ends so well that I was very like pleased with this watch.
Well, I think it loses itself a little bit. And you know, when the movie started out for me, I had high expectations of really liking this movie. Um, when I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it, I ended up watching Big Trouble in Little China, and I enjoyed that a lot. It was cheesy, and I liked it a bunch. And that movie, you know, has a bunch of twists and turns in it too. And then you told me, hey, if I like Speed, I'll like this. So, and I really like Speed. And so I had like a lot of expectations in the movie. And the way this movie begins was as cheesy as I wanted it to be for like an Arnold movie with like that kind of dude. When I saw his like head of Omega Sector with the eye patch, I was like, this is it. This is what I want. And yeah, it was really delivering it for me. And then it went off on this tangent, and I feel like the movie loses itself a little bit. Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know where this is going. And then, like you said, like an hour left of the movie kind of brings it back to the terrorist plot subplot. But I think that's the problem, right? Is the Jamie Lee Curtis married to Arnold Schwarzenegger the plot, or is the terrorist the plot and the other one's the subplot?
Oh man, I don't know. I think the terrorist part is obviously the plot of it. It's how the movie ends, and then like the Jamie Lee Curtis cheating slash spy part of it's probably like 30 minutes of a 2 hour 20-minute movie. um I actually like love that part, and like the movie kind of switches gears in such a way purposefully that you kind of forget about Aziz and his crew. Like the movie sets up like this is going to be the main part of this movie, and then you're going on with Jamie Lee Curtis and like Arnold Schwarzenegger trying to catch her cheating and stop her from cheating for so long that then when the Arab guys break in, you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's what this movie was about.
Yeah, but there's not even like, I mean, I guess in a movie, I guess they had to purposely do that. It's not like James Cameron is a inept director, right? So, but it's kind of a off-putting. The fact that they don't even, at least to me, the fact that they don't even cut back to like the terrorists doing something during that whole, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis, Bill Paxton thing. There's not even a cutback. So for like a huge chunk of the movie, you just have this thing going on. And it kind of brings it back too with like taking the daughter. But as this movie was, because I didn't know anything about this, right? So as this movie was going on, I was like, okay, they're going to do one of two things. You're going to find out that Jamie Lee Curtis is also a spy who's been also hiding her identity from her husband. And they're going to be on like the same mission, but opposite sides. They're going to run into each other. Or I thought, oh, the terrorists are going to kidnap Jamie Lee Curtis, and then he has to go save her from there. And that's kind of the way I saw it. And it was like, it was more the latter, but it wasn't either or, honestly.
So you either thought Mr. and Mrs. Smith or you thought Taken.
Is exactly what I thought. I thought it was going to be one of those two, and it ended up being like some sort of amalgamation of both, but less than one.
Well, except like so Mr. and Mrs. Smith is like a direct kind of like its lineage comes from this movie, right? Like
Right, yeah.
at the end of this movie, they're both spies, but like Mr. and Mrs. Smith is there even is a scene in Mr. and Mrs. Smith where they do a tango, like kind of an homage to this movie. So, um I think we should just get into it and start going through it. Did you prefer the speed opening title sequences to these? Because these, I was like, oh wow, this is real dated.
I the graphics on it, like the big bold letters, I thought it was like telling me something that I needed to know about the movie. I didn't realize those were the actors in the movie. Because you had the beginning one where it's just like the black background with their names in white. But then as it was introducing Arnold's character, infiltrating that mega mansion thing, there was still like the huge bold names on the screen. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah,
Or
and
are
then
you talking about the title sequence with like the 3D graphics?
the 3D graphics, like the True Lies.
Oh yeah, that's insane.
It's not doesn't hold up. Doesn't hold up. I that when this movie starts too, I was like, this is also just fucking like Mission Impossible. I guess there's a French film that Arnold saw and was like, I want to do this. And James Cameron's like, you watch French films? And then like, they decided to do it. Um and so but like the opening of this, because I hadn't seen it so long, I'm like, oh, this is like Mission Impossible. And it's like also affected by James Bond quite a bit. But like, Mission Impossible, you see Mr. Smith. Fuck, why can I not say that? Mr. and Mrs.
You can
Smith.
just call we'll accept if you just call it the Smith movie.
No, 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 no. Because then people are like, you talking about Will Smith. So anyway, there's just like a lot of things that like it's kind of like how people now like Seinfeld doesn't do as well with newer people because like, oh, I've seen all these jokes before, and it's like, no, all that shit stole from that, right? Like, so this movie, obviously the Mission Impossible TV show came out before True Lies, but you get my point. Like a lot has come out since then that's sort of reflecting this, and it feels the other way around when you kind of go back. Um, I The opening scene in Switzerland, I like. It's definitely like kind of hokey and corny.
Yeah.
Um, I called my dad today and I was like, "Hey, we're doing a movie with your favorite actress from the '90s." He's like, "My favorite actress from the '90s?" Like, who is that? And I was like, "Tia Carrere," and he goes, "Oh yeah, she is my favorite actress from the '90s." And she's like the Juno in the beginning, and like the
Yeah.
helps the arms guys.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say your dad's favorite actress from the '90s is Jamie Lee Curtis, and I found that extremely hard to believe.
He's a big Halloween guy, as you know when you met him. Like you can see that. So, no, yeah, he just thinks Tia Carrere is hot, and I mean, she is. So,
Yeah, no, 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 she is. Taylor is like, wow, I know a girl our age that looks just like that. And the way she said our age, I was like, what do you mean, babe? I was like, she was like, oh, she's definitely much older than us. And I was like, no, I was just like, I just don't think women look like that anymore. So I looked up her age and she was 28 in this movie.
yeah, and she like I don't know. I think as a kid, everyone looks like you just hear like everyone's 40. You're
Yeah,
just like they're
everyone's
just so
40.
old.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
People that are 50 or 40, people that are 30 or 40, you're just like, hey, that's just like a 40-year-old. That's just like that's an adult right
That's like
there.
an adult person. Yeah, exactly.
Um, the opening is kind of I don't know. It's got a lot of like cool little pieces. It definitely just feels totally like the first Mission Impossible movie, right? Like you're in this foreign country. It's cold outside. Um,
The thing that I found most entertaining about this whole thing is that when he's going through the ballroom and he's talking to people in different languages and he's like, "Oh, hey, Colonel. Oh, hey, General. Oh, hey, whatever, whatever," and they all look confused as hell. And like one guy in English, one guy says, "Who the hell is that?" But then in all the other languages, they don't say anything to him. They just let him say hi to them. And I was like, how fucking funny would it be if he's not speaking the language? He's just mumbling shit to people and they're like, "What?" And he's just moving so fast through it. He's just totally got away with it.
it's like the Mr. Bean version of this movie, where it's just like that's not even
Yeah,
the language.
exactly.
I also like the guy that plays Fast Faisal, um, Grant Heslov, and didn't look that up at all. But I like when he's at one point when he's getting these files. We have no idea what this first mission is for. I guess we eventually were like, this is leads to like them finding the Crimson
The-
Jihad,
yeah, the terrorist.
but it doesn't seem to be connected except for the movie just saying like, hey, it's connected. Um,
Well, it's also connected through Juno because she comes back up later as like an associate, and she's there, right? So
yeah, yeah, right. No, yeah, I agree. But Fast Faisal, he's like, I got my hand up addressed, and I'm and Tom Arnold's just like, shut the fuck up and just copy the links, copy the files. Is like I love that. Like Tom Arnold is so fucking great in this movie.
dude, I was like, he said some lines. He has some killer one-liners in this movie, and I was like, oh my god, he's my favorite character. And then he says something so problematic. I was like, oh my god, nope, nope. If I like this character, I would get canceled so fast.
Well, we'd have to be famous for you to get canceled. I apparently one of the lines that one of my favorite is he's talking about his second wife took the ice cube trays, and he's like, what kind of fucking cold ass bitch takes the ice cube trays? And apparently that was a real story from his divorce with Roseanne, and he told that story to James Cameron, and Cameron put it in the movie.
That's awesome. Yeah, if we're going down favorite lines of his character, mine is when their daughter, he's like in their house eating, like having coffee or something, and their daughter comes in the room, comes in the kitchen, she puts on her motorcycle helmet, and he says, "Oh yeah, I remember my when I got shot out of a cannon."
Yeah, that's a very good one. I also apparently like he did like 15 different ad-libbed versions of that, and that's like the one that got chosen.
I mean, that was a good one. Where he becomes problematic is when he's like talking about his daughter, like as they're walking into Omega Sector, and he's like, "Why?" He's like, "Yeah, she just stole money out of your pocket, out of your jacket pocket," and he's like, "Oh yeah, she's probably going to use it for an abortion." I was like, "Dude," I was like, "Oh man." I mean, if someone said that about your daughter, how upset would you be?
Well, that's the thought I had is like Arnold's just like, whatever, yeah, it's funny. And then but when he's later on talking about his wife banging some dude, he's finally like, dude, shut the fuck up.
Stop trying to make me feel better.
That was it? You know what? Work on it in your head a little bit, and we'll come back. You'll have another
I
Arnold
feel like I
chance.
had a strong beginning, but then I just kind of became like a fucking monster in the
Yeah.
end.
So let's real quick. The only other thing that I find funny in the Switzerland part is when he bangs. Well, first he like has one, or maybe this is in the end. I can't remember. I think it's in the end where he has one dude stab another guy, and the other guy stab the other guy. But in the beginning, when he takes the two dogs and hits their heads
I knew you were
together,
gonna talk about this. I knew you were gonna talk about this. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? And it's like obviously when he's doing it, it's rubber. It's like rubber dogs because they hit the ground and they just kind of don't move. But then like it had to. You can't have our main character like expected to be liked throughout this movie kill two dogs, so you have to show them like they pop back up and they're fine.
well, they're like dazed, right? They're like walking around circles, like like that. Um, The only thing I think we can move through this next part quick, but one thing that I noticed, in the like domestic stuff is she's talking about how the plumber has to dig underneath the slab, and she says it's $600, and then she's like, he'll take $100 off if I sleep with him. $600 for a plumber to dig underneath your slab? Like, holy shit, that would be like $5,000 right now if you needed something like that done.
Yeah, but that was 30 years ago.
I
So
know, I'm just saying,
probably totally,
home ownership sucks, is what I'm saying.
yeah, I mean, so it's kind of great how they set this all up, how they set up that she's like they have this relationship. And I guess you just don't normally think of like Arnold and Jamie Lee, like they're not your normal people you would cast in like as a husband and wife role in this.
Yeah. So apparently, Arnold came up with the idea for this movie, and we normally do like the casting at the end, but
It makes so much sense.
Arnold came up with the idea. James Cameron was like, "Hey, I want Jamie Lee Curtis to do this." He kind of wrote it with her in mind, and Arnold's like, "I just don't see it. I don't want to use her." And so here are the people considered: Michelle Pfeiffer, Annette Bening, Melanie Griffith, Madonna. Can Madonna act? I saw League of Their Own. I don't know. Is Madonna a good actress?
I don't
Sharon
know.
Stone, Gina Davis, Rosanna Arquette, Sigourney Weaver, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Emma Thompson, Joan Cusack, Isabella Rossellini, Demi Moore, Julianne Moore, Jean Triplehorn, Helen Hunt, Kim Basinger, Madeline Stowe, Leah Thompson, and Deborah Winger. And a couple of names I didn't recognize.
Out of all of those that you say, like, this could be a convincing couple to me, would be Sharon Stone. But then if you do someone like Joan Cusack, it's kind of like you get the same energy. I'm just imagining her from like School of Rock, but like this character.
Well, just which one of them did you want to do the? I think Michelle Pfeiffer would have been good. And I think Jodie Foster like maybe had the part at one point. These fucking facts are like always like contradict each other.
Yeah.
But so James Cameron was like, nah, Jamie Lee Curtis has to be it. And so he went back to Arnold and was like, listen, if you trust me, which you should, because Terminator and Terminator 2, bro, you have to let me cast Jamie Lee Curtis. And he's like, all right, I will. And then there's another really cool story when James Cameron was editing this. Arnold's name is supposed to pop up, then True Lies, and then Jamie Lee Curtis's after that. And James Cameron went to Arnold and was like, listen, I know this is yours to have, but I really think that her name needs to be above the title too with yours. And Arnold was like, yeah, sure, do it. And Jamie Lee Curtis was like, that's like a really like cool thing that he did for me that he didn't have to. And it's like, you really fight over like where your name appears on a movie. So
I wonder why James Cameron was such an advocate for Jamie Lee Curtis.
Because apparently he saw her in the movie Blue Steel, which was directed by his ex-wife Catherine Bigelow, and was like, I want to work with her.
Okay.
Damn, that's the first time you've asked a question like that, and I was just like, fuck, I got it.
Yeah, you got it. Good job, man. Yeah, I'm not that big of a fan of Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm just not. Like, I don't think she really deserved to win the Oscar of this past for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think it should have gone to Stephanie Sue, Sue, however you say her name. I think she was amazing. And then I didn't know Jamie Lee Curtis came from such a famous parents. I didn't know she was like a little nepo baby. So I don't know. She's okay. She's okay in some things. I liked her in Freaky Friday. Um, but in this was so interesting because I was like, man, she's supposed to be sexy, and then she comes like to the hotel. She's like supposed to be a hooker, and she's wearing that dress, and I was like, oh, why? And then she starts ripping off the sleeves and slicking back her hair, and I was like, all right, I kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis a little bit more now.
Let's just talk about that scene now. I've never seen such an ugly dress turn into such a sexy dress. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense how it happened. And this was like a very formative scene as a kid. So this movie came out when I was 7. I probably saw it like a few years after that. So like 8 or 9, maybe 10 at most. The dance holds up, and you can tell she put in the work
She went
for
fucking hard for think of the scenario, right? Like like she's dancing for this like a stranger guy who just likes to watch, who she thinks he's a hooker or whatever. She fucking goes hard on that bedpost.
I meant like she had worked out. Also, apparently that scene was supposed to be in the nude, and it was going to be like silhouette. And then Jamie Lee Curtis was like,
Yeah.
"Why don't I do bra and panties, but you see everything?"
Well,
And Cameron,
yeah.
because Cameron got a lot of shit for that scene, and he's like, "Dude, she was just as involved. Like I didn't,
What's interesting too is like I was looking at her dancing, and I was just like, that's not an ass of a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah, I don't. That line. First of all, I love Bill Paxton in this. His line at the end is like, "I got a small dick." Like when they're about to throw him off, like he says, "I got a small dick," and then, and then as they walk away, Tom Arnold's just like, "All right, fuck off, dipshit," and just shoots at him to get him to leave. It's like so great.
Oh, you're talking about that scene. Okay, because that's not the last time we see him in the movie.
Well, no, then he pees himself again at the very end, which I love the little ending of this. Like, so it ends with them both being spies, like working a case, like their marriage has been saved. Their daughter's like very happy with them again. That's what happens when, you survive a terrorist attack. And then they go to this party. But this was supposed to lead into a sequel that was going to come out in 2002, and 9/11 happened, and James Cameron was like, "Yeah, I just don't think terrorism works anymore." And
Have you seen
so
that
nine
video?
eleven ruined True Lies 2, another thing that we lost.
Um, have you seen that video of James Cameron in his submarine at the bottom of like the Titanic thing as 9/11 happens, and then as he comes up, they have to break the news to him?
Yeah, and like Bill Paxton was told, and then he breaks the news to him, but it like it was such an odd video the way he tells them because they're just kind of in shock, and it like almost looked like Paxton was like act like the way he was telling him was just super odd.
I
And
agree.
it's
It
just
was almost like he was reading off a script. Yeah.
it was very, I mean, but that's also just like, it was fucking weird going through that as we talked about in, like the Zero Dark 30 episode. But imagine like coming up from that and like this thing that has happened to everyone, and then you're like finding out in that way would also just be crazy. Um, so Omega Sector, I always thought they worked for like the FBI or something. Charlton Heston is their boss, dressed as Nick Fury. Apparently,
Furry?
yeah, Nick Fury. Yeah, no, Nick Fury. Apparently, he came to the set with pink eye, so that's where the patch came in.
Dude, that's a
Um,
cool patch though.
it worked for him. I liked
Yeah.
how his job was just to be like an asshole. He's like, but you don't have any actionable intelligence, and just like gets angry with him the whole time. So they go after Tia Carrera because she happens to be in town. I guess they're in DC, and they set up a hotel at this like nice hotel, which comes back later. I found interesting. And also we get cuts in between of like, we talked about the scene with his wife and kids, but then his wife is like basically talking shit about him at her work, about
Yeah.
how like he's not interesting, he's so boring. I ask him about his conferences and it puts me to sleep. um and then we get a pretty cool scene where, so this guy who like the camera shows multiple times, with slicked back hair, goes into Tia Carrera and slaps the shit out of her because she's like, "Why are you bringing this guy? Like, clearly something's up with him." And then they go and try and kill him immediately, which I was like, even if you're successful, like that's gonna bring more heat on you. Like, I don't really get the point of killing him like that.
So speaking of Mission Impossible, that bathroom fight scene reminded me a whole hell of a lot in that one in Fallout.
Yeah, no, yeah, and this one's good too. This is like, you have the comedy of the dude taking a shit. You have like really good action. You have the glasses with the
It has it
camera.
all.
Yeah, it's got everything.
It's got everything. No, I mean it was like really good, and I was prepared for it to kind of be short and dumb, but it really impressed me. And then you have Tom Arnold kind of trying to catch up to the thing. And then you have the fucking, okay, dude, this is insane, right? It's like that escalates to them jumping out the window and then Tom Arnold being like, "Oh fuck, there they are." Ba, 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 right? But he can't shoot anyone because it's street full of people. And then that goes from the what's his name? Amir, right?
Aziz.
Aziz goes on the motorcycle. Fucking Arnold gets on a horse, and they're going through what I believe is Central Park.
Oh
And
no,
then
they're in
oh,
DC.
oh, they're in DC. So they're going some park in the mall. Okay. And so then they end up somehow by riding the elevators to the top of a Marriott. And I was just like, this is awesome. I was so into this, and I was like, "Oh my god, is the horse gonna jump too?" First of all, there is no way in fucking hell that motorcycle even came close to making it.
Absolutely not.
And
There's there's not enough of a lead up.
and well, there's no ramp, and that hotel is way too far away. But the other thing too is like, I was like, okay, so there's no way that motorcycle would have made it. There's no way the horse would make it. But maybe the movie would make the horse make it. And the fucking horse stalled out, like he stopped, and I was like, all right, this is and that's pretty much like the end of it. Then we go into the whole Bill Paxton subplot.
Yeah, apparently 4 horses needed, and then for all of those scenes because they all did different stuff. And then
Yeah.
apparently one of them, I think probably in the jump scene, um, almost killed Arnold and almost like had him fall off a 30-foot like thing because he was filming that part of it. So Yeah, we almost lost Arnold on this one. Uh, I had the same thought. There's no way the motorcycle. First of all, it's just crossing like what you think is just one street. So it made it look like it was a fucking 10-lane highway that
Yeah.
it's crossing. But I guess the pool was just farther back on the building. And then he flies like what looks like 200 feet. And then Arnold's just like, yeah, I fucking got this on the horse.
You know when we were doing speed and there was like no there was like no ramp, right? Everything was like at the
Yeah.
same level, so there was no way that the bus could get to the height it needed to get to the other side of the highway. And there was only like 50 feet of thing, but then we read that when they actually did it, the bus went like 119 feet. It like exceeded it. I'm wondering, like, okay, there's no way that motorcycle did it, but then when they did it, there was like, oh yeah, it did it just fine. We just didn't have a real person on it. Although you could see, I don't know if it's wires or that extra, like, you could see the motorcycle didn't fall at like a normal velocity. It like glided horizontally in midair for a bit just to make it to the pool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's completely improbable, impossible. Also, I did have the thought that like before this all happened, Aziz crashes through the window, and Tom Arnold could just shoot this guy, and instead goes, "Hey!" And then Aziz turns around and shoots at him. Just shoot him.
On the pole blocks all the bullets, and but Tom Arnold's kind of a bigger guy, right? Like bigger than a light post. And so he just like somehow all the bullets are just deflected by this light post, and then Tom Arnold's like checking himself, checks his
He's like,
balls. He's like,
"Whew."
whew.
Yeah. And then, as you see, the movie just changes right here. The next day, Arnold goes to surprise her for lunch, finds out she's cheating on him, and then he basically like it's pretty interesting. He goes home, and this scene mirrors the scene like at the end where they're a happy family, but he or juxtaposes really. He goes home, his daughter's like completely uninterested, and his wife is like keeps telling him stories, and then she's like, "Oh, I came by to go to lunch with you," and she has a completely put together lie with detail after detail, which is just making him more and more angry. Like
Yeah.
because when you know someone's lying and their lie is so well put together,
It
it's
means they
more
thought about it for
infuriating. Yeah, and
a long
like
time. Yeah.
yeah. So and then he just decides to take all the resources of Omega Sector and focus not on the terrorists, but on his wife.
There's this scene that happens early on where Tom Arnold is giving Arnold that's not confusing at all. He's giving Arnold Schwarzenegger a bunch of like the stuff to like have him be convincing that he just came back from this conference, and he gives him a gift of a snow globe to give to his daughter. And he gives it to his daughter. Her daughter opens it up. Okay, so here's the line. She says, "Wow, I've never seen one of these before." And I know it was probably meant to be slathered in sarcasm, but she says it with such like just matter of factly. And then I was like, wait, has she really never seen a snow globe before? And then she tosses it in the trash. And I was like, that was a cold ass move.
I think it's probably because Tom Arnold's in charge of the gifts and she's received way too many snow globes, is what I would imagine has
Yeah, but the
happened
way
there.
she says it, it's not like, wow, I've never seen one of these before. She's just like, wow, never seen one of these before.
I had such a crush on Eliza Dushku, like from this movie, and then like the stuff afterwards, like
Yeah.
the new guy, and then pretty like fucked up. I just read so in 2018, she came out and said that she was molested by the stunt coordinator of this movie, and that like
What?
when she like, I
That's
think
insane.
when she kind of like it was brought up a little bit that he also like she she basically says that he kind of like got her in, she broke ribs and she's like it was his fault because of like the what he had done, and then I think like some kind of telling on him and things like that. So it's just like fucking crazy to like she was 12 and he was like a 36-year-old guy.
I mean, that's really fucked up. But you hear those kind of stories all the time in Hollywood, how like people get away with shit all the time.
Yeah, no, it's like as I'm watching the movie though, and then afterwards, like I'm like on a high because I like really liked it, and I was like, I was like thinking back to like, oh yeah, I had like such a huge crush on her, and then you read that, and it just like makes you really fucking sad. So we next get to Harry finds out that his wife has left the house at like 8 p.m. to go meet Paxton, and they start tailing her, and uh, Paxton's like, "Oh, you have to put your head down," and puts it in his lap, and then all the fucking people that are surveilling is like, "Oh yeah, she's got her head right in his lap."
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, it's just the face of Arnold just falls, and,
Totally blowing that guy.
I I was so, like, shocked at the revelation of Bill Paxton's character being a salesman, and I was like, "This is so fucking funny." She's bored with her husband, who she thinks he's a salesman, but he's a super secret spy, and she's enamored with this Bill Paxton guy, who she thinks is a super secret spy, but in reality is a salesman. It's like this perfect thing, but they don't really, like, do anything with that.
I mean, no, that's the thing. They did the thing.
I guess they did the thing, but they didn't. I don't
They
know.
really should have hit you over the head with it, huh? Like,
I'm
look at what we did here.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, yeah, the used car salesman, like when he goes on the test drive with Bill Paxton, is really funny, and you get the point where he like kills him with his arm, like with an elbow, and then it's like just a dream, and he's like, "Oh, I got this one woman on the line. She fucking really wants it." There's so many times that people tell Arnold his wife really wants to fuck Bill
So
Paxton.
so this is the scene where, as Bill Paxton is describing Jamie Lee Curtis, he says that she's got an ass like a 10-year-old boy. And I text you this immediately because, first of all, what the fuck does that mean?
Smooth, I guess.
I mean, and second of all, I if you just met a stranger and you're trying to sell him a car, do you are you gonna sell him with the fact that you might be a child molester?
I mean, I don't think that's the point of what he's saying, but I do think the point of it is to
It's like
have
he's a
Bill.
scummy guy.
He's scummy and he'll just say whatever the fuck he wants. Like he just doesn't have a filter, right? The only time he like is kind of composed and like really thinks about what he says is when he's trying to, take other people's wives.
I think a cool part of his character actually is that, and the way this movie is edited, is that we see Bill Paxton with his gun that is actually a water gun. And then in that flashback where we see him give her the briefcase and she opens it up and she finds all these like passports and money and stuff, she lifts up the files and there's the gun. And
Right.
we already know it's a water gun, but it looks like a real gun, and she freaks out about it. Like, this dude is scummy, but very detail oriented.
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny like how good he is at this ruse. And so yeah, he gets her back, he's getting her drunk. He's like, "Hey, I need you to be my wife in Paris." And she's like, "Okay, I'll do it." And as this is happening, you see Arnold like out there ready to raid this place. And he's like, and Paxton's like, "Baby, we need to really like prove that we're a couple." And he like tries to kiss her and she backs away. And he's like, "See, that we can't do that in the field." And and then basically like she starts going for it, and then like in order to like save this character so we're not like fucking hate this lady cheating on her husband, she doesn't do it before she's caught. She's like, "No, I'm
Right,
not going to do that." We get
right.
the she wouldn't have gone that far. She went as far as she did. So um
She didn't even approach Bill Paxton to be like, "Hey, I think you're cute. I want to date you." He approached her with this whole thing that she thought she was like involved in. So it's like you could make a case that she never sought out an affair. She just had one kind of fall in her lap. And then, like you said, she said no to it. He was kind of pushy too, right? Like, he was kind of a salty.
yeah, yeah, definitely aggressive,
Yeah.
a little too much. And then oh, you know what? By the way, the 10-year-old boy line overshadows the line right before where he said titties make you beg for buttermilk. Um, So it's just like he overshadowed himself. But yeah, so then Arnold comes in and like
Blows half the trailer off.
yeah, because he sees her on top of her with her legs, him on top of her with her legs spread, and yeah, she starts biting people. She hits the shit out of Tom Arnold, and like finally he gets her into the car, and the interrogation scene I think is really good.
Did you notice that Tom Arnold hits her in the back of the head? And
I
then
didn't know if that
Arnold
was Tom Arnold or another guy, but then yeah, Arnold
and then
hits that
Arnold
guy.
punches him. Yeah.
That's a really good one. Um, and they're like, you basically want to find out if she fucked anybody, and Tom Arnold keeps like, you know, oh, is your husband not doing it for you anymore? And Arnold's like, shut the fuck up. Or Schwarzenegger's Harry Tasker is like, shut the fuck up. I got this.
The part where he's disguising his voice in the interrogation room, how does she not know that that's Arnold? Like, how does she not hear her husband's accent? Like, sure, it's like muffled and like, deep throat kind of thing, but
What is it?
that's what it's called. It's like when you meet someone in a. I'm digging myself into the hole, but that old spy thing was like, you meet someone in a parking garage and they're like, call me deep throat, that old trope. But anyways, how can you not hear the accent through that? And then yeah, he's like, do you still love your husband? I was like, who would ask that? Like, she so dumb, not being like, oh, okay, I get what's happening now.
Well, I mean, she does. She's like, what the fuck do these questions have to do with? I also think that this. I don't know whether you call it a change or maybe we're just finally seeing this character for who she is. But, she's got this short haircut. She wears glasses. She dresses like a middle school teacher. And then she's like about to break the glass.
I thought that glass was going to shatter and she was going to see her husband on the other side of it. And then that was like, the jig is up.
Yeah, I just like I think it's like just such a like a sea change for that character where we're just like, oh, okay, I don't know if you're saying if you could say it's abrupt or just like the right bit, and then they're like, hey, we need you to do a mission, and she's like, yeah, cool. And then I think we've talked lecherously enough about the dancing scene. It's pretty great. And there's this one line before that where Tom Arnold is like, "You're using the same hotel from your cover," and he's like, "I can't afford a better like a suite," and so like that is why then the terrorists like catch him right then and there.
I love the thing too where he tells her to sit on the bed. He has this whole thing recorded by this like French guy. he has only what he has recorded as to say, so anything outside of that script he has to like kind of like rewind the tape. Like when he asks her to sit down, lay on the bed and close your eyes, and she's like, what? No, they said you only like to watch. He has to like rewind the tape and then restart it at that point. And then when she finally does it and he kisses her, she beats him up, but not even realizing that it's her husband. And I love the point where she still puts the microchip on the side of the phone. Like after all that, she still completes the goddamn mission.
Well, it shows that she like is doing this to save her family, and but it's also funny that she just doesn't even look at the face of this guy. That like, and I mean, I don't think he was doing if you take this at face value, that guy had hired a hooker, so he wasn't necessarily doing anything wrong, but like maybe it wasn't agreed to. She's like, "Oh, you're breaking the rules of like you don't touch," and I don't know. But anyway, and then he's like, "Helen, Helen," and she looks back and is like, "Harry, what are you doing?" And then the
See,
terrorists pop in.
this is the part I don't get. She sees Harry, she knows he's the guy this entire time. She has to, right? And then when she's taken by the terrorists and everything like that, she's still like, what's going on? Why is Harry here? And then she's like, oh, they're for me. Like those terrorist guys are kidnapping us because of me. And Harry's like, no, they're there because of me. And I love that kind of like that misunderstanding that she's like, she doesn't get that she's set up by her husband yet.
Well, I mean, and I don't know if you've ever dealt with your spouse being a super spy for Omega Sector, but I imagine there is some grogginess at like what happened and how like you're in the situation you're in. Um, but I just think it's funny that he's like, "Oh, she's a hooker. Just leave her here." And it's like, "Oh, nothing." And she's like, "What are you talking about? I'm your wife, idiot!" And like proves it. And he's like, "The fuck are you doing?"
Like,
Like,
even all the way onto the private jet, like, they get all the way on the plane, and then, yeah, and then Juno's like, "She's telling the truth, isn't she, Harry?" Like, no shit.
Yeah, it's I oh, we skipped over I think it was really funny. The guy recording the French was like, "Who wrote this shit, Harry?" And it's like a nice like meta commentary making fun of fucking James Cameron, right? Cuz like this is his writing and it's just like this is so bad.
Yeah, but, I mean, at that point, it's purposely bad and cheesy.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. And then we get to this island. We have no idea where we are, but I guess we figure out we're in the Keys. And this whole time, I was like, I don't know where this movie is taking place. Like, you figure out like DC for the first part
Yeah.
because, like, it's government agency. They're working for Omega
I
Sector,
I
whatever.
looked this up because the bridge that they crossed on looked like a St. Pete bridge, and I was just like, "That's St. Pete?" But no, actually, it was the Keys, and then they shot part of this in Miami too.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. And they did miniatures for the like explosions and stuff, like for a lot of it, and it's
Yeah.
just like looks so good.
No, it does. That's the thing too. It's like these 1994 movies with miniatures instead of CGI just looks so good. It makes you wonder why we still don't kind of do that nowadays because CGI has just gotten so expensive, and then when you want to cheapen it out, it looks bad, right? I'm sure miniatures are probably pretty penny in and of themselves, but um it looks so good. I think back to Speed. And Speed looked really good too.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. There's only like a couple things here and there that don't look great. There's the part where Jamie Lee Curtis is hitting Tia Carrera with the wine bottle. The view behind her of the driver and then the
Oh
bridge
yeah,
is
yeah.
clearly like a green screen recording of like a road.
Yeah.
Uh, at least it's the right bridge, but it like you could tell. And there's like one or two other things, but yeah, no, it looks so good.
I also think the jet, him taking off from the highway in the jet, and then the whole jet scene at the end of the movie, you could tell which parts were CGI there. But it was still like decently well done.
No, for sure. I mean, for being 94, like I think it holds up pretty damn well. Um, so we get to this island, and they basically force Harry to like do a video explaining that they have the capabilities to blow up these four nukes. And then we get to the truth serum scene, which is really funny. And she's like, "So you got to tell me the truth." He's like, "Well, just try it out. Ask me something you think I would lie about." And she's like, "Are we gonna die?" He's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we're gonna die." And then I love when Samir walks up and he's like, "I'm gonna kill you." He's like, "Oh really? How are you gonna do that?" He's like, "I'll probably first use you as a shield, and then I think snap your neck." And then he shows that he doesn't have the handcuffs.
Samir from the torture guy, right?
Yeah, the torturer.
Yeah. Yeah.
This scene is basically like Commando,
Oh,
right?
it is like Commando. You're talking about where he's popping out of the thing, just shooting every fucking person, and yeah, yeah, yeah. But can we talk about how Jamie Lee Curtis drops the fucking machine gun and it kills everyone perfectly?
It's good.
That was my favorite part of the movie. Like, hands down, the way they set all that up and her expression, like her expression is just like panic.
But
Housewife is so perfect for what this is.
but I also love Arnold sitting there like he looks up, the guy that's choking him looks up, and they're both like, "Oh shit," and they like hide.
I also like how the gun like doesn't just shoot going forward down the stairs, it shoots coming back. And so it like shoots at Jamie Lee Curtis up the stairs, and she has to dodge out of the way of her own fucking mistake. But also how every terrorist runs in the direct
Line of the gun.
Line of fire? Yeah. So fucking hilarious.
They're not very smart. There's also the cameraman who's filming the video of the jihadists, like the battery dying and him
Oh my
shaking and like I don't
god.
know what to do, and he's like, I'm gonna this guy's gonna kill me. And then he's like, just go. He's like, moron, go get it. He's like, I'm gonna go to the truck. He's shut up, don't talk. But um then after this, there's this line where after he's killed everyone before she drops the machine gun that kills a bunch of people, where she goes, I married Rambo. And at first I was like, she should have said, I married Commando. That would have been hilarious. But then James Cameron should have done, I married the Terminator.
I
I,
don't know. I like Rambo.
I think he thinks it's too self-referential, but I'm telling you, like, I think it works there. I don't know. Little note I would have given him as a studio exec, and he would have been like, "This fucking guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Shut the fuck up. I'm gonna leave it the way I want."
But yeah, so he's, Arnold is next to a big gas tank, and Mir shoots it, and um
Aziz.
Aziz, Jesus Christ. Aziz shoots it and it blows up. And I guess Jamie Lee Curtis at this point thinks he's dead. And I guess everyone thinks he's dead. But it's so awesome. There was this scene where she comes face to face with Juno, and Juno's fucking gonna kill her. And then fucking Aziz saves her and is like, "Now we need a hostage." And I was like, that is a roundabout way to keep Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie, because anyone else just fucking kill her.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta. It's honestly a very well written reason to keep her alive, right?
Well, yeah, because it's like, then if she wasn't in the car, they could just blow up the car on the bridge. But since she was in there, they can't do that. And there you go.
Now, one thing that I find very odd, I guess, is that he's like, "We need a hostage," but then Aziz, what does he take a helicopter or something? And he just goes a completely different route as
Yeah, we
like
don't see him. We don't see him anymore.
so he must have taken a copter or he was in a car that went way ahead. And then she's riding in the limo.
Yeah.
And then at the time they kidnapped no. No, yeah, okay. So this part doesn't actually make any fucking sense to me. Because Harry gets out of the water
He's
and
in the water. Yeah.
Tom Arnold comes up, should have perfect opportunity for Arnold as he's running to say, "Get to the chopper." They don't do it. They don't go for it. The easy line. But they somehow kidnapped the daughter from DC that Aziz didn't know about until that night.
Right.
How?
Okay. So I thought this movie was going to end so differently than it did, right? I thought they were going to take care of this whole thing on the bridge. And then they were like, it is done. We did it. We can go home. And then as they walk through their front door, Aziz is there with their daughter, like at gunpoint. And they fucking like take him out, right? But, and I thought that's the way it was going to end. But then when they were like, no, they're holding this building hostage basically in, what is it, Miami?
Yes.
Yeah. They're holding this whole building hostage in Miami. They have the nuke on the roof, yada yada yada. And the way that Tom Arnold delivers the news about Dana to Harry is just the most blasé. It's like, Harry, I got some news. They have a hostage, and it's Dana. And Arnold's like, my Dana? Like, my Dana? And he's, first of all, yeah, you fuck, yeah. And then the second one, he's like, yeah, but don't worry, we'll get her back. I'm like, I don't know. Like, he is not a sympathetic character at all. Like, they're not even like, oh, they have your daughter hostage. But that's a good point, though. I didn't even think about it. They took a helicopter all the way to fucking DC, and then they came back to Miami, like this, like 6.5 hour helicopter flight.
He must have sent some other guys to get her. He must have had some dudes who were meeting him in Miami from DC.
How do they know where he lived?
Well, because he pulls out the wallets.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how. I mean, it's the only explanation. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. It was part of it that was like, eh.
I'm kind of disappointed that Jamie Lee Curtis couldn't be there at the end where he saves the daughter, because I think it'd be cool to have this like husband wife mother father moment that they both go to save her, and he just kind of fucking leaves her and she doesn't even know that her daughter is kidnapped.
Yeah, I think also because the movie's so long, normally it's already 2 hours and 20 minutes. Normally you'd have a scene showing her getting kidnapped, like oh, she tries to hide in her, I mean, I'm thinking of Commando, but her trying to hide from them and like it, she gets caught and
She has her little moment in the sun.
she does. No, she does. I mean, she's definitely like even fucking looks like Alyssa Milano from Commando. Um So we get to Miami. I love Faisal's moment to shine where he just fucking takes 3 dudes
Oh
out,
yeah,
like
that's
bang, bang, bang.
awesome. Awesome. As soon as
It's
he turned around, I was like, there's a gun in that camera.
yeah, and a walkie talkie, like and a like a communicator for with Arnold. And so then she steals the key. She runs up top. Arnold coming up with the fucking jet as the dude's got the binoculars and just taking out the entire fucking floor.
Because he said that there's no hostages on the 20th floor, he knew that he could just fire, completely. And yeah, it was awesome. The other part of that too, it's like, and just a note for anyone who's ever kidnapped or running away from someone that is chasing them, means them harm. Uh when you run in a stairwell, you go down. Okay? You don't go up where you're trapped on the roof, because your dad's not Arnold Schwarzenegger and he's not coming in a fighter jet to save you.
I mean, she's a kid, as we said,
You run
so
down, David. Down.
down. Is that what you do? Okay,
Yep.
yeah. And then she gets caught by the jet, and I love the way that he almost hits the building with the guy doing cleaning the building, and then he goes into it.
Yeah. When I was watching this with Taylor and she goes, "Oh look, there's Stan Lee. There's Stan
No,
Lee's cameo."
that would be yeah. No, that is true. Um, and then we saw the chopper that shot at him. I was like, what kind of chopper shooting at a fucking fighter jet? Like, why are you doing that? And then the main terrorist disease falls onto the rocket.
Mm.
And I read somewhere that James Cameron had an entire team of writers to work on this movie for the comedy aspect of it. And then he was just like, I don't really like this. So he fired all of them and he did almost all the comedy himself. He said he left one line in from that team of writers, and it's when Arnold says, "You're fired." And I was like, that line doesn't even make sense. Those
It
guys aren't
doesn't.
employed. That guy's not an
Nope.
employee of
Not a
his. Like,
bit.
it's just a dude you're killing. Like,
But however, David, he was fired.
on a rocket. I agree. Through a building that he had just shot up into the helicopter and blew it up.
Yeah, that was super cool, and I didn't think I would like it. I saw it coming from a mile away. I was like, he's gonna get his jacket hooked onto the rocket, and the rocket's gonna go, and he's gonna go through the building, it's gonna hit the helicopter. And I was like, ugh, okay, whatever. And then it happens, and I was like, okay, that was pretty fucking cool.
It is good. It's 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 a good way. And then you think we're done because it's like, oh, that's a great ending. The newscasters like, oh, some secret agency saved us here. We don't know who it was. It's the Impossible Mission Force, basically. And then they're in their home and they get a call, and she's like, Boris and Doris were on. And I love Bill Paxton's final little piece in this when he pisses himself. I'm just gonna do him right here. Go for it. Like, it's just so perfect.
I kind of wish that we see them like actually do something spy on this mission instead of just dancing the tango. And I'm sorry, I really in the beginning of this movie liked Tom Arnold's character, but then as it went on, I was just like, there's too much of him. And his little monologue at the end, where it was just like, next time I'll go out there and you stay in the vehicle. I was like, I'm just done. I'm done with his character.
No, I liked him a lot. I think it was very funny. I think more like the more you watch it, the more like when you know the jokes are coming, they may not hit as much. But no, I appreciate every time. It's been a while since I've watched this. I appreciate it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think like I, you could kind of tell that they're setting up this up for a sequel. at the end there. And I guess it's like the perfect thing where it's like, oh, this could happen, but also it's a standalone movie enough to not have one.
No, yeah, and that's like, especially when you have sort of an original idea, I think that's like the perfect way to do it. You need like a contained full story with the possibility of continuing. Like nowadays, like the studio has to have the possibility that if this blows up, we can make 7 more of
Yeah,
these.
yeah, yeah, you gotta have an end credit scene. You gotta have like an open ending, and yeah, exactly. But now there's like a True Lies show, and I'm pretty sure it's just like, like there was a huge up thing back in like 2015, 2016, where they took all these 80s and 90s movies and made them into shows, like the Rush Hour show, the Lethal Weapon show, et cetera, et cetera, and they just all failed horribly. And I think this is just one of those.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to watch it. Maybe it's good. I don't know. I'm just yeah. I don't watch a lot of TV right now.
Well, for my final rating of this movie, I give two dogs hitting their heads together and then collapsing on the ground. As we're talking about this, I did like the movie. There was a lot of parts of it where I was really into it. My only critique I will say now is that it loses itself kind of in the middle there, and you forget really that this is a action movie and more of like a trying to fix the relationship movie, but it's silly enough that it works. I just don't think it has to be 2 hours and 20 minutes long. I think you could easily shave off maybe like 20, 25 minutes of this movie and compact it and still have like a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I mean, my only criticism is that the dancing scene should have just been fully nude.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say it. Oh my God, I saw it coming a mile away.
I want to like let's tie a thread from like the previous episode. So I've seen Oppenheimer, and I made a joke about seeing Cillian Murphy naked. You do not get to see Cillian Murphy naked in Oppenheimer. I was like, I don't know.
No. Well, you
Also,
see him naked, but his legs are crossed.
yeah, also just totally unnecessary nudity in that movie. Like it doesn't just I for Nolan for that to be the first nudity he's ever done in a movie, like 10, 11 movies in, it's like I don't understand it. Um,
Yeah.
let's rapid fire some fun facts. So Jamie Lee Curtis won a Golden Globe for this performance, which
Okay. All
Golden
right.
Globes are usually like the funner reward different types of stuff, so I like that. Um, this is crazy. So after Terminator 2, James Cameron initially wanted to make Spider-Man the movie from an R-rated script with Leonardo DiCaprio as Peter Parker
Love
and
it.
Arnold Schwarzenegger as Doc Ock.
Fucking love it.
However, he thought the movie would be too challenging.
It's like Arnold as Doc Ock would be like as Arnold as like with as Mr. Freeze.
I have 8 arms.
You've been occupied.
Uh,
It's pretty
James,
good.
James, it's the best one you've done tonight. James Cameron was inspired by the Man from Uncle TV show. These
Ah,
are the people who were considered for the Tom Arnold character, whose name was Albert Gibson in the movie, and we never said it once. Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, John Goodman, Steve Guttenberg, and then Joe Pesci, I think, was offered it and said, fuck off.
that is exactly the people that I would imagine who could do this.
Dude, it's like
Maybe like throw Danny DeVito in there too.
Joe Pesci just it cannot play it the same way Tom Arnold did, but it would have been fucking hilarious. Your wife is fucking other guys. I don't know how you don't see it. She's sucking dick all over DC. Um, I was very, very much impressed with this watch of the movie, and like I said, I think it's one that people forget how good it is. And so now that it's available to watch
Yeah.
someplace, unless you owned the DVD or like a pirated copy from another country's, a Blu-ray. Dude, go to Tubi and check it out if you haven't seen it in forever because it fucking rocked.
Maybe wait a couple weeks so they can like fix their copy that they have on there right now.
Dude, it's a free service. They ain't gonna do shit with that. So,
Maybe they'll fix the one on Prime.
well, thanks for listening to another episode of I Finally Watched. This is David.
And this is Alon, and I finally watched True Lies.